My name's Andrew McNabb.
My name's McDonald. Oh, tap on, is it working? Hello?
I don't think it's high. We have a height difference between the two of us, so it's kind of hard to find the middle ground. So I'll slouch, and he'll go on his tippy toes or something. Figure it out.
That should work. We'll just talk really loud.
Yeah, we'll try it. Give it a shot. That's all right with all of you?
All right.
Okay. So, serious matter.
Okay.
So, I'm Andrew McNabb.
I'm Bruce McDonald.
And we are here on behalf of LCCBI's History Club. And we will be doing a presentation on a local man from Petrolia who fought and died in World War I. So, without further ado, Bruce will start us off.
Remembrance Day. It means so many different things to so many different people. For some, it is a day to remember the ones who fell during all wars Canada participated in. For others, it is a day to spend with family. For us, it means so much more.
Over the past 2 years, we've had the privilege of researching a World War I soldier, bringing him into our lives, and then meeting some of his relatives.
The soldier we are speaking on behalf of is Private Hugh Murray McQueen.
So if any of you would all like to take your gaze to the left, actually, to the two plaques on the wall right there. On the World War I plaque is Hugh's name, and the one beneath it is actually the one his father had made for him when he fell in France in 1918. Hugh, his family is a member of this church, and his father was one of the founding members of the church, so he has a very personal connection to the church itself.
Murray was born in Petrolia on the 1st of September, 1894. Murray's family was one of the founding families in Petrolia. He worked as a clerk in his grandfather's store for his teenage years until attending St. Andrew's College in Aurora, Ontario from 1912 to 1913.
Murray joined Lambton's 70th Battalion in 1910, where he eventually rose to the rank of lieutenant. When war broke out, Murray waited for 2 years for the 70th to be called up before making the decision to resign from the 70th Battalion and go to Toronto to join the 50th Battalion as a private, where a lot of his schoolmates were enlisted.
Murray enlisted on February 15, 1916, and left for training later that month. He arrived in England on May 5th of 1916. Murray was taken into the 50th Battalion on June 19, 1916, while the battalion was out of line. One captain and 150 other men were added to the battalion during this time. On June 30th, the battalion returned to the front. This would be Hugh's first time seeing any action.
Murray's battalion participated in its first trench raid on July 8th after only 1 week in the front line. The trench raid was a success, and thankfully Murray was not injured. A couple months later, the battalion was introduced to the Battle of the Somme. On September 16th, the battalion was to provide support to the 52nd and 60th Battalions for their attack on Courcelette. The first day went well, but the second day was slowed as the men grew tired, the enemy brought in reserves, and artillery support became less effective. The 7th Brigade's attack failed, and the 50th Battalion dug in for the night. The battalion had to change its location again the next day, and there was heavy fighting all along the front, with both sides striving to improve their positions. Heavy shelling caused many casualties, with the 58th itself suffering almost 70 dead, 13 wounded, and 3 missing. The next day, another 4 were killed, with another 33 wounded and 3 missing.
During this time, when the battalion was out of the line on September 18th, Murray was taken off strength and sent to a small hospital away from the front. He was diagnosed with bronchitis. Murray was discharged from the 50th Battalion on the 22nd of October, as he recuperated in the hospital. On November 3rd, Murray was admitted to the casualty clearing station. He was then transferred to the General Hospital number 26 on November 24th of 1916. The next day, he was transferred to Conversion Depot number 6. 2 days later, on the 27th, Murray was discharged from the Conversion Depot. Now, from the 27th of November to the 25th of December, records become really blurry, and Murray almost disappears from the war until he's admitted to the St. John's Ambulance Brigade Hospital for bronchitis again. Murray's condition worsens and is transferred to the CCAC, which is the Canadian Casualty Assembly Center. By January 7th, 1917, Murray has been transferred to a hospital in Glasgow, Scotland. 2 days later, Murray was back on his way to the front.
January of 1917 was then the coldest and harshest winter so far on the Western Front. Many men were getting sick from the brutal cold, including Hugh, who was again admitted to a field hospital on January 28th for bronchitis. Hugh does not return to action until March 10th, where he's taken on by the 2nd Central Ontario Regiment. From April to the end of July, Hugh spent a majority of his time in Europe in and out of hospitals because of his sensitive health. On September 13th of 1917, Hugh was first taken into the 2nd Canadian Corps, then assigned to the 9th Canadian Field Ambulance, and finally he makes his own way back to the 58th Battalion.
In October of 1917, Hugh's battalion participated in the legendary Battle of Passchendaele. The 50th Battalion had done an extraordinary amount of very vigorous training for an offensive launched on the 28th of October. The assault went well, even though out of the 500 men sent in, there were 303 casualties. By the end of November, Passchendaele was over. On December 30th, the battalion was a victim to a gas attack. It began before dawn when the Germans fired around 600 gas shells toward the Canadian lines. About 200 of them landed on the 50th Battalion. The men in the trenches recognized the gas canisters and quickly put on their respirators. But the men in the dugouts were not as fortunate. Seven men were casualties of the gas. Hugh was one of these 7 men.
On January 1st, 1918, Hugh was admitted into the Battalion General Hospital due to effects of the gas. On April 3rd, Hugh was moved to the Etching Hill Hospital. Hugh was not fully discharged from a hospital until July 5th of 1918. He was taken into the 8th Reserve Battalion at this point. On August 30th, 1918, he was taken on strength to the 2nd Canadian Corps. On September 4th, 1918, he was taken back into the 58th Battalion. At this time, the 100 Days Offensive has begun. The 58th Battalion was to take part in the Battle of Cambrai. The 58th Battalion began its attack on September 27th. Its job was to support its sister battalion, the 116th. On the morning of September 27th, the attack began. The 58th quickly broke through the German line of defense and was on the other side of the canal by 1:40. They then dug in until the next day.
On September 28th, the attack was resumed and the Canadians enjoyed more success. The 58th Battalion took the right flank of the attack, while the 116th took the left. The 58th crossed the railway and moved up the Bapaume-Cambrai road. Twice driven back to from the road to the railway, D Company, reinforced by the remnants of C Company, managed to complete the clearing of that section of the Marcoing line by 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Contact was established with the King's Liverpool Regiment of the 75th British Division. A company helped the 116th clear enemy-held houses east of the sinkhole. By 3 o'clock, the situation was under control. The casualties were lighter than on the first days of the operation, but this because the battalions had less men to lose. The heavy losses of the previous 2 days necessitated a reorganization of the battalion, and B Company was combined with C Company. The 58th was moved into reserve behind the 8th Brigade. That night, orders arrived from the 58th and the 116th Battalions to resume the attack the next morning.
Sadly, Hugh would not see the dawn of the next day. During the battle, Hugh would fall due to a fatal head wound from shrapnel. Hugh had seen every aspect of battle, surviving trench raids, the massacre of the Somme, gas attacks, and the devastation suffered at Passchendaele. He had fought and died for his country.
Like thousands before him and thousands after him, Hugh is not the only Canadian to ever fight and die in a conflict. To be able to leave home, go to an unknown land, and fight for your nation and her people is truly a remarkable act of courage and bravery.
And in March, we took a trip to Europe, and that greatly changed the way we looked at history. So our idea of Remembrance Day has really been altered by our European trip. Being at the battlefields and feeling the connection to the world's past, taking in the spectacle of life and death, it was a life-changing trip. But to us, Remembrance Day is no longer just one single day, it's every day. Our experiences have shaped our idea of remembering. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are there because of what those men and women fought for, freedom. And now we would like to show you some pictures of Hugh. We only have a few, so just to put more of a face to the name. So. Okay, it's a little small, but the high school is a little bigger. We had a nice big projector, but we'll work with it, okay? So this is actually the 70th Battalion, and Hugh is on the far left-hand side in the second row. So second row, far left, second guy from the right. You can't really see him, but you know.
What kind of instructions are those?
I'm horrible instructions. Okay, we're going to restart that and we're going to try it again. Okay.
This is a picture of his entire battalion. We have a picture of him, but that's all of the men from this area.
Second row. Down. Then go one to the right from the left. Right there. That guy. Right there. We're going to get there. I had names and labels on pictures one time. Make it so much easier. I'm horrible at instructions. She has it. She's figured it out. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next picture. Let's go.
This is a picture of Hugh's dead penny. So, okay. Thank you. So much better. Okay. So the man on the left is Hugh Murray McQueen, and the man on the right is Hugh Sharkley, and they were both local Petrolia men. And of course, Hugh Murray did not come home for the war, but Hugh Sharkley did return. So I'm not even going to try this. This one's a lot easier, actually. So this is a group shot of Lambton's 70th, along with Colonel Fairbank. And Hugh is on the far right. He is the farthest man on the right. So, thank you. That is all our images. So that concludes our presentation.
We will be staying after service though, so if you have any questions for us, we can answer them to the best of our ability.
Best of the ability. Keyword.